words on campus.
You cannot let people that support Hamas on campus and me, a professor, not go on campus. Let me in now.
America's most prestigious colleges now offer majors in hate. How terrorist sympathizers took over, and what will the universities do about it? Bill O'Reilly on what's next for a generation cozying up to terrorists. Feel the battle. A toothache ends Trump's first day in court almost as soon as it began, leaving the candidate fuming.
Everyone knows going to that trial I did nothing wrong.
New evidence the trial might be hurting Trump where it hurts the most. Ozempic woes.
This is my honest review of GLP-1 medications, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Saxenda, and Victoza, because I've taken them all.
TikTok tries to silence influencers pushing Ozempic.
I love Ozempic. Have a great night.
Dr. Drew on who to believe about Hollywood's wonder drug. And climate theater. On Earth Day, President Biden promises another $7 billion to protect planet Earth.
The most significant investment ever anywhere in the history of the world.
The new research showing everything we're doing, from paper straws to recycling, electric cars to banning gas stoves, doesn't help a single degree.
For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect.
Welcome to the Farrah Show on television. First, this Monday night, 23 years after 9/11, and somehow America's college kids have become pro-terrorist. And university presidents, literally coast to coast, won't or can't do anything about it. New video out of Columbia University in New York shows pro-Hamas protesters literally dug in. They've set up a large camp and on campuses nationwide. To better understand the views of some of these folks who claim to be pro-Palestinian, just listen to their chants. And it's important here to pay attention to the subtitles. All right, Israel's got to go burn Tel Aviv to the ground. This is way different than calling for a ceasefire. The lack of overwhelming response to Nazi-like protests at major Ivy League institutions speaks volumes. The silence speaks volumes. Bari Weiss said it best in the Free Press. For a second, imagine that black students at Columbia were taunted, "Go back to Africa," or that a gay student was surrounded by homophobic protesters and hit with a stick at Yale University. Think about that for a minute. Columbia blocked a Jewish professor from coming on the grounds for fear of a violent confrontation.
This is the sound of civil rights being denied of a Jewish professor. I want you all to remember this sign. I am a professor here. I have every right to be everywhere on campus. You cannot let people that support Hamas on campus and me, a professor, not go on campus. Let me in now.
He was not let in. Bill O'Reilly's here, host of the No Spin News on BillO'Reilly.com, author of the upcoming book, Confronting the Presidents, No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden. Mr. O'Reilly, welcome back, as we always enjoy having you on a Monday. The University of Columbia University's president has put out a statement saying that she wants to have a dialogue of some type with the protesters. Is this something you can just talk out and everybody goes back to take finals?
You know, I hate to be analyzing this on the start of Passover. It's terrible. The professors that run these liberal colleges like Columbia and Yale and Harvard, they basically are consensus seekers. They have gotten their jobs by kind of going up the ladder and never really doing anything that would upset too many people. So when they're confronted with this, they don't know what to do. This is not a hard one, Leland. So I'm the president of Columbia, where I was born, by the way. I was born in Columbia University Hospital. And I say to the protesters, you have certainly have the right to do that in America. We're going to have an area where you can go, and we're going to have hours where you can demonstrate, because we don't want you interrupting classes We don't want you putting off the neighborhood people. So this is the way it's going to be. And if you step out of that zone, the protest zone, or you don't leave at the assigned time, you are expelled from the school. That's it. You're expelled. And that would put an end to most of it. So is that hard? It's fair. Why don't they do it? Because they're cowards. They're afraid to do it. The second thing is, you said that college kids, this is just a small sliver of college students around America. Most of them don't agree with it. They don't care about it. They're too wrapped up in TikTok or whatever they're doing. They don't understand it. And that's a real important point, that the American media has not really explained what this is. And I don't want to go into a long history lesson, but I'll submit to you, Leland, if you could get some of these protesters on your program tomorrow night and ask them central questions about Gaza and Israel, they would not be able to answer them. So we hear, for example, about a two-party solution.
I don't think they'd be able to answer simple questions. But I think they wouldn't be able to answer simple questions. No, but they certainly know what they're chanting for, right? If you see somebody with Hamas flags and the like, you know what you're standing for. If you're chanting "Burn Tel Aviv to the ground" or "Israel's got to go," I don't know if you can plead.
What you are, but they don't understand why they're doing it or what the history is behind it. They're lemmings. They're being manipulated. Okay. So this is how it goes. The far left, which manipulates these students and runs these protests, hates America. They feel that the USA targets and denigrates minorities, particularly African Americans. They feel that Israel does the same thing to Arabs. They feel that Israel has stolen their land, has persecuted them for centuries. They're as evil as the patriarchy that runs America. There's a linkage. So the far left, which has a database of all their sympathizers at universities, blasts out, this is what we're going to do, and the lemmings do it. That's how it goes down. It's not like Vietnam, where that was organic, that people were coming back. In my neighborhood, Levittown, Long Island, New York, they were coming back and they were saying, this is horrible. That's how I got my point of view on Vietnam, by talking to my friends who had been through it to describe to me what was actually happening there. That's not this. They don't know, these college kids or whoever's at, they don't know what Hamas is, but the most important thing Americans don't know is there's not two states. There's only Israel. Hamas, the terror group, runs Gaza. Hezbollah runs the West Bank. They're not governments. They're devoted to destroying Jews. It's like the Nazis. They want to destroy the Jewish people. You can't negotiate with them. There's no solution with them. And they hold all the power. So when you hear this Ocasio-Cortez woman in Congress and all this blather, they don't know what the deuce they're talking about. But worse, they don't care to know, Leland. They just want to disrupt.
A lot of good points. I would take issue when you say a lot of the kids don't know, because at Columbia there was a massive walkout in support of the protesters and a massive walkout by the faculty. And the faculty certainly knows what, in your words, what the deuce would be going on. They see the flags, they hear the chants. It doesn't take too much to put two and two together. These are students at Columbia University. They're at least supposed to be able to think for themselves just a little bit. How much do you blame the parents?
Let me just say something.
All these kids have parents. How much do you blame them?
I don't blame them at all. Once you go to college, you're pretty much on your own. If you can get a Columbia professor who walked out and sympathized with these pro-Hamas people, I will come on and debate that person, and I will assure you that your audience will not look away from that debate for 1 second. I don't think you can if you mention it's going to be me they're up against. I will take them apart every fiber of their being, because what I am saying is true. It's not opinion. It is true. Gaza, West Bank, run by terrorists who want to kill Jews. That's all. That's what you need to know.
Yeah, we've tried to book a number of them as well, and we didn't even have to mention you. They wouldn't come on with me, so we'll extend the invitation to them with you as well, and see if that helps. So I'm wondering what this does to colleges, right? You're sitting around, you're thinking about sending your kid off to college. It's expensive. Bill Ackman brought this up, and I thought it was an important point, that these colleges and universities are diluting their own value. And it's not just Columbia. It's the University of Michigan that's allowing this kind of stuff. It's colleges coast to coast that's allowing this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering, if you're sitting at home, even if your kid's not Jewish, you're not Jewish, you don't want to spend $360,000 over 4 years to send your kid to be involved in this. And with, as you point out, and have been exposed as cowards running the place.
Excellent question and analysis. I've got 2 in college now. And my son, who's a junior at Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island, there's no trouble there, because the president of the college is a very efficient, sane, fair person. And there's no trouble there. My daughter is at St. John's Law School. You're not seeing this erupt there. Okay? It's not happening at St. John's. It's all about who's the leader of the pack. And these schools that you mentioned have weak, radical left leaders in many cases. They've been exposed. And listen, I won't send my kids to grad school a lot of places. I would never do that and put them into that cauldron of hate. Never going to do it.
Now, you brought up who they're supporting, which is Hamas, and to a certain extent Hezbollah, both of whom are funded by Iran, who view Israel as little Satan, America as the big Satan. Is it too far of a stretch, and I think you touched on this, to go out that these kids are more than just supporting terrorist groups in the Middle East? They're really sort of bent on tearing down the fabric of America, and to that extent, you know, we saw Google, and I thought Blake made a really good point at the end of the Hill. Google fired all these people when they showed up, and they're all wearing masks. And you look at this video; they're all wearing masks. Nobody wants to sign their name to this stuff. The Vietnam protests, everybody went out there. You could see their faces. They talked to reporters. These folks won't talk to reporters because they know what the consequences are. They kind of know what they're doing, but they can hide. And should we take at least a little bit of solace in that there are even companies like Google that are standing up to this, and these kids kind of know there might be a cost extracted from them?
Yeah, I mean, you have to lay it out. If you're going to say, I am Hamas, and that means that I condone murder and rape on a mass scale, then why don't you just say, I am a Nazi? Or I am a communist who believes Stalin was great? Or Mao Zedong was a humanitarian. That's the level that we are hearing. Now, do you punish those people for speech? I don't know whether I would do that. I really believe firmly in the First
You'd hire
Amendment.
these
but
people?
If they do anything, if they break the law or the rules, then they get punished. But just being a loon in the United States, you know, we give them that latitude. I'd never hire them.
All right.
You know, nobody in my corporations would ever do that because they know what would happen to them. But mass punishment for speech, that makes me queasy.
Fair enough, and I think you rightly point out how special America is, because the place they're advocating for, Gaza, doesn't have free speech. The West Bank certainly doesn't have free speech. Iran certainly doesn't. So it does say that we're different. Bill, it's always a good conversation. Thank you.
I appreciate it, and I hope everybody goes to BillO'Reilly.com for the best analysis. And we have mugs. You want to fight back? They say not woke. BillO'Reilly.com.
All right.
Thanks for having me in, Leland.
Thanks, Bill. We're going to listen in for one quick second to the protests in New York City. They've been going on now for hours. We'll see if we can put them back up. They were chanting, "Long live the Intifada," which is the violent uprising and mass killing of Jews. That's the streets of New York City right now on Monday night in America. Continuing in New York, Donald Trump left court today quite angry, why new polling shows he has a right to be, and if there is anything he can do about it.
I should be in Georgia now. I should be in Florida now. I should be in a lot of different places right now campaigning. This is a Biden witch hunt to keep me off the campaign trail.
And more Americans are getting the facts about Ozempic from TikTok influencers. What could possibly go wrong? Dr. Drew Pinsky shed lights on what you really need to know about the so-called miracle drug.
His karate lessons might not turn him into a black belt. Hi-ya! And even after band camp, he might not be the greatest musician. But with the 3% annual percentage yield you can earn on a PenFed premium online savings account, your goal of supporting his dreams...
Thanks for everything, Mom and Dad.
...will always be worth it. Apply today at PenFed.org/savings. Federally insured by NCUA. $5 minimum to open account. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Do you have frequent abdominal pain along with diarrhea or constipation or both? If so, you may have irritable bowel syndrome and should see a doctor. Hi, I'm Dr. Griffin Rogers, Director of the National Institute of Diabetes, Digestive, and Kidney Diseases at NIH. Irritable bowel syndrome, known as IBS, is estimated to affect up to 10 to 15% of the population. Many people suffer from IBS but don't know that they have it. Symptoms include pain or discomfort in the abdomen, and changes in bowel habits. These symptoms may come and go repeatedly. Seeing a doctor is a first step in treatment. Your doctor may run tests to rule out other conditions. If you have IBS, your doctor may recommend treatments such as dietary changes or supplements, medications, and talk therapy or hypnosis. To learn more about IBS, follow us at NIDDK.gov. This is Dr. Griffin Rogers.
At YMCA Summer Camp, kids find their why. Friendship and fun, a world of adventure beneath a golden sun. Running, laughing, full of wonder. Being themselves is second nature. Summer camp is where they begin to unlock the confidence that lies within. When kids find new passions, they find their why. Summer camp season starts soon. Learn more at ymca.org for a better us.
This is Nick Smith. Get my podcast In the Mix at newsnationnow.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you worry about what you don't have and resent what others have? Dr. Gary Probst here with a thought about learning to appreciate who you are and what you do have in just a moment.
David was in big trouble with the IRS.
At first, I didn't owe that much, but after this year, it was out of control.
Then David called Get a Tax Lawyer.
Right away, they were like, oh yeah, looks like you're qualified to say
Get a Tax Lawyer went to work.
Should have called way sooner.
Get a Tax Lawyer has helped thousands like David fight the IRS and get a fresh start.
Call 800-783-0798. That's 800-783-0798.
Wealth is a relative term. Who has a better place in history, Marie Antoinette or Mother Teresa? What you value is who you are. What's important to you? Victor Hugo said the wicked envy and hate. It's their way of admiring. William Penn said the jealous are troublesome to others, but a torment to themselves. Socrates said envy is the ulcer of the soul. We all possess something. It may not be a large sum of money or assets, but you do have gifts. Vincent van Gogh died with nothing, but he created some of the greatest masterpieces. Socrates also said the envious person grows lean with the fatness of their neighbor. In other words, you only hurt yourself with envy. Don't just think about being rich. Think about helping others. Respect what you value and appreciate who you are. Wealth is in what you give.
If you had to pay income tax this year because you didn't have enough withheld from your paycheck, There's a way to prevent that next year. The IRS has developed a new withholding calculator. You'll find it at irs.gov. You enter your salary and you see what you should be withholding. Springtime has brought steadily increasing gasoline prices, and while the increase is just another example of continued inflation, prices are just returning to year-ago levels. Prices are up sharply in the last month, but are about the same as this time last year. Here's a warning for Taylor Swift fans. There are reports that her new album has leaked, and if that's true, you can expect scammers to put up fake download sites. These sites can download malware onto your computer, steal personal information, and steal money. I'm Mark Huffman. Learn more at consumeraffairs.com.
First day of Donald Trump's business records case got cut short because a juror had a dental emergency. Mr. Trump left court, as he often does, angry and with a list of grievances.
I'm the leading candidate. I'm beating Biden. I'm beating the Republicans now. I have the nomination. And this is what they try and take me off the trail for. Because I should be in Georgia now. I should be in Florida now. I should be in a lot of different places right now campaigning.
His anger might have something to do with new polling. At first glance, things couldn't look better for the former president. Here's Steve Kornacki of NBC News on Meet the Press.
We talk about the erosion for Biden, and now you start to see it. Look at these numbers. Trump advantages on all of these traits.
And I stop here because competent and effective, that was President Biden's, the crux of his campaign pitch back in 2020.
And we actually polled this question in 2020, and it was basically the exact opposite. It was Biden with about a 10-point advantage over Trump. And again, same with handling a crisis. Biden had the edge over Trump. And how about this? It's the former president, the current president. We don't really see matchups like this. Well, now we can measure it. Who has the strong record as president? And again, Trump outpacing Biden on that front.
Ordinarily, numbers like those would be Christmas Day for a candidate. It'd be easy. You'd expect Trump's overall numbers to be strong, too, double digits. But that's not the case here. The overall head-to-head in swing state polling is trending in Biden's favor. In late January, Trump led Biden in the Real Clear Politics average by more than 4 points in the popular vote. That's huge. Now it's down to 0.3 points. Caroline Levitt, Trump's 2024 National Press Secretary, is here. Caroline, good to see you. Are the court cases, now that they're adding up, now that the former president is spending more time in court, starting to weigh on the poll numbers?
No, absolutely not, Leland. What you're citing is one poll of many. There are more than 100 polls to date that show President Trump beating Joe Biden in a head-to-head matchup. And as you just laid out yourself, President Trump is winning on the issues that matter most to voters.
Caroline, we're going to stop right there because facts matter here. And the fact of the matter is I didn't cite one poll. I cited and I said the Real Clear Politics average of polls. The average in January, Donald Trump was up 4 points. The average today, he's up 0.3 points. How do you explain that 4-point swing?
I was about to tell you, President Trump continues to win on the issues that matter to voters. And those are the issues we will continue to talk about between now and Election Day. Those issues are inflation, because Joe Biden has created the worst inflation crisis in a generation with his tax and spend policies. The second issue on voters' minds is immigration, because Joe Biden has allowed an open border invasion of millions and millions of illegal people that are in every single state and community across this country. And so voters trust President Trump over Joe Biden on the issues that matter to them and that they will ultimately vote on when they cast their ballot on November the 5th. And that is the message we will continue to drive, in addition to the fact that it is a shame for the United States of America that Joe Biden is currently weaponizing the justice system against his political opposition and keeping his political opponent off of the campaign trail in an attempt to interfere in this election. And that's what this case being brought by a Democrat prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, in New York City right now is.
Okay, I'm sorry. I still didn't hear an explanation for why you've gone from up 4 points in the average to now only up 0.3.
We have always said that this is going to be a close race in the general election. President Trump was fighting through a very contentious primary. Now that he is the Republican nominee, Republican voters are rallied around him, more so than Joe Biden's base. I will point out Joe Biden's base is fractured. You see that with the pro-Palestinian protests and Genocide Joe chants that are taking place across this country. And President Trump is also picking up historic margins with voters that will determine this election on November 5th. Those voters are Hispanic Americans across the country, which President Trump is winning. They are independent voters who are swinging towards President Trump by double digits. And it's also African Americans who President Trump is picking up historic gains with right now. So if I were to be anyone in this race, I'd want to be Donald Trump, not Joe Biden, who is viewed as the most weak and incompetent and corrupt president in our nation's history.
Well, the polling at least shows on competency in handling a crisis, other things, a majority, far more Americans favor Donald Trump. Talking about the case today, and to be fair, even Democrats who are major attorneys and defense attorneys and no fans of Donald Trump in New York tell you that it is about as thin as turnip soup in terms of the actual case and the substance of it. How much of this has to do with the framing, right? And we saw today the prosecutors try to frame this as about Donald Trump and tactics rather than about the law. And I ask, understandably, do you all wish that there had been cameras in the court today and that people were watching and seeing the former president sit there?
Well, sure, because they would hear a very strong argument from our defense team outlining that there is no crime. There was never a crime. And this case is being brought by a far left prosecutor in Alvin Bragg, who has promised to spend his political career getting Donald Trump, not getting the violent real criminals who are running free in the streets of this city right now. It is being overseen by a Democrat judge who actually donated money to Joe Biden's campaign, and it's taking place in a Democrat jurisdiction here in Manhattan. This case is a sham, and they not only are persecuting President Trump in this way, they are silencing his ability to speak on it. He now has an unconstitutional gag order where he cannot talk about the witnesses in this case.
But he's not following it.
Yes, he is following it. Absolutely, he is following it. Believe us, there's a lot more that President Trump could expose about the corrupt actors in this case that he is not allowed to do because of this unconstitutional measure, which was handed down by a Democrat partisan judge.
All right. Well, we'll see the hearing tomorrow. Caroline, thanks for making it over. I know you were hustling in traffic. We appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Thanks, you too.
Yeah. On Earth Day, President Biden announced a $7 billion subsidy for solar panels on people's roofs. We'll show you exactly how much that $7 billion will help save the climate. What do you get for your money when we come back?
For folks with low and moderate incomes today, the Environmental Protection Agency will invest $7 billion from our Inflation Reduction Act in a new program called Solar for All.
As President Biden today commemorating Earth Day, new research suggests that the $7 billion President Biden just announced for solar panels won't do anything to help slow climate change. Since coming into office, Mr. Biden has proposed electric vehicles, regulating gas stoves, tax breaks for up to $3,200 for insulating your home. Todd Myers is the author of Time to Think Small, How Nimble Environmental Technologies Can Solve the Planet's Biggest Problems. He's an environmental researcher from Seattle. It's good to talk to you, Todd. Thank you. Look, and we got to sort of separate two things, right? Yes, the climate is changing. Anybody can reasonably agree on that. Why? There's certain explanations in terms of that there's the greenhouse effect, that's part of it cyclical, on and on. And now we're to the discussion of what to do about it. Is there any evidence that all of these proposals, all of these billions, trillions of dollars we're spending, is there any evidence that it's actually going to do anything?
It may do something, but the fact is that there's a lot of waste in there. Right? EV subsidies primarily go to the wealthy and often to people who would have purchased electric vehicles anyway. So what additional CO2 reduction are we getting? Not very much. For rooftop solar, it's much the same. The U.S. Energy Information Administration and other analysts note that rooftop solar is the least efficient source of electricity. So even if you're concerned about climate change and want to spend money government money to reduce CO2 emissions, you would never put it on rooftop solar if your goal was to maximize CO2 reduction. So that's why I think a lot of the things that we do are based more in politics and image than they are in environmental results.
All right, so you think about how long this conversation has been going on, right? It goes all the way back. Actually, the earliest clip we found was the year I was born. I will date myself, 1982, and you will recognize the anchor.
About rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil.
If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas all over the world.
Okay, Florida's still around. So how did we get from there to here? Florida's still not underwater, and yet we don't seem to have any better understanding of what to do and the proposals you've made that could actually help, number one, and number two, are more cost efficient.
I think we do have a very good understanding, and there are metrics and ways to measure, but the problem is that government and political approaches, that's not how they're measured. They're measured primarily with how it makes me feel, how it makes politicians look. And so that's why, again, we do things like solar and EVs. But a lot of analysis has been done about where you get the most bang for the buck. And a lot of times where you get the most bang for the buck are in individual, small actions that not only reduce CO2 emissions, but actually save you money. One of the most simple is simply shifting how you use electricity so that you're not using it when it is most expensive from 4 to 7 in the evening to either earlier or later, because not only is that electricity the most expensive, it's the most carbon intensive. We know that these things can be done. We know that they're effective, but it's pretty boring and mundane compared to EVs and solar panels.
Interesting. All right, Todd, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll keep following the money. I know you will as well. Yeah, boring and mundane doesn't work as well in ads or in swing states. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon. We wrote about this first on War Notes. That's our daily newsletter. It comes out every day at 4 p.m. Eastern. It gives you our look at the most important stories of the day, some interesting conversations. You can respond either to the email or at Leland Vittert on Instagram and on Twitter, warnotes.com to subscribe. Influencers on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Love telling you about the benefits of Ozempic. There's just one problem. None of the people you see here are doctors. Dr. Drew Pinsky on the dangers behind getting your medical advice from random voices on your social media feed.
This is my honest review of GLP-1 medications, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Saxenda, and Victoza, because I've taken them all.
Coming up next. His karate lessons might not turn him into a black belt. Hi-ya! And even after band camp, he might not be the greatest musician. But with the 3% annual percentage yield you can earn on a PenFed premium online savings account, your goal of supporting his dreams...
Thanks for everything, Mom and Dad.
...will always be worth it. Apply today at PenFed.org/savings. Federally insured by NCUA. $5 minimum to open account. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Pregnancy-related deaths in the U.S. are on the rise. The reason? Cardiovascular disease. And Black, Hispanic, and Native American women are the most at risk.
I never thought my pregnancy could cause heart failure. I experienced my first heart attack after the birth of my son.
But high blood pressure, gestational hypertension, and diabetes can put mom and baby at risk.
Visit goredforwomen.org/pregnancy to learn more, because my health is our health.
At YMCA Summer Camp, kids find their why. Friendship and fun, a world of adventure beneath a golden sun. Running, laughing, full of wonder. Being themselves is second nature. Summer camp is where they begin to unlock the confidence that lies within. When kids find new passions, they find their why. Summer camp season starts soon. Learn more at ymca.org for a better us.
Junior Achievement is where dreams take flight. We are helping students connect what they learn in school to future work and career success. We are teaching them how to manage money to achieve financial security as adults. And we are showing them that starting a business also means changing lives and communities. However, we can't do it alone. Go to ja.org to learn more.
With Nurtec ODT, I found relief.
The only migraine medication that helps treat and prevent all in one.
To those with
You can't escape a traffic jam. Know what else you can't escape? Seasonal allergies. And you might think you can avoid that coffee stain until... Oh, really? You can't escape a lot of things in life, but you can escape prediabetes. Prediabetes captures 1 in 3 adults. There are usually no signs of prediabetes. In fact, most people don't even know they have it. But with early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Take action by taking the 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. You might not be able to escape having this song stuck in your head, but you can escape prediabetes. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Migraine, I see you.
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura and the preventive treatment of episodic migraine in adults. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
It's time we all shine. Talk to a healthcare provider about Nurtec ODT from Pfizer.
Sometimes Jonah wrestles with falling asleep, so he takes ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, and wakes up feeling like himself. Get the rest to be your best with non-habit-forming ZzzQuil. Better days start with ZzzQuil nights.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
The future. The way you see it is said to depend on where you sit. At X-Chair, we think it also gets down to how you sit, which is why our technology is light years ahead. X-Chair has done it again with our groundbreaking Elemax technology, providing hours of infinite comfort no matter where in the world you're sitting. By synthesizing the universe's elements, bringing hot, cold, and touch into one extraordinary seating experience, our mission is to help you discover that every workday can happen with body and mind in an out-of-this-world place of comfort and productivity. X-Chair is charting a new course, helping workers everywhere find comfort as their work worlds zoom back and forth. Even though your work reality may continue to shift, we've got our eye on the future of work so you can focus on the present. And from where we sit, the future still feels good. Bring home wellness during our big spring sale. Get up to $378 off with extras included. Hurry, sale ends April 24.
TikTok is banning videos like these that hype weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, etc.
Hey y'all, it's Wegovy Wednesday.
This is my honest review of GLP-1 medications, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Saxenda, and Victoza, because I've taken them all.
I'm down 155 pounds using GLP-1 medication. My only regret about this medication is that I didn't start sooner.
So-called health influencers make big money with before and after photos or reviews, and they say the new TikTok rules aren't fair. With us now, Dr. Drew Pinsky, maybe best known for his radio show Loveline, self-titled television show Dr. Drew, still practices internal medicine, used to practice psychiatric medicine. My favorite one is Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Cendextra, Victoza, because I've tried them all. That sounds healthy.
It does sound healthy, and I've so many different reactions to all this, including, well, thank goodness TikTok does have some judgment. They're actually able to do something worthwhile here in terms of limiting what shows up on that platform. Yeah, this is a very complicated landscape. I'm not. Look, on one hand, this is another conflicted idea I have, is that it's okay that patients are giving reviews and giving firsthand experiences of their whatever medication we prescribe to them. But for people to assume that's how they make their decision about what they should be taking, this is a very untoward way to practice medicine. We have gotten so bizarrely reliant on the chemicals as the solution to all of our problems. We expect things only to make us better, when in fact I was raised by an old family practitioner, and he just hammered into my head that medications are dangerous. You only take them when the risk is worth it. And I never took an antibiotic till I was 15, and I remember the day he was like, okay, here we go. And, I survived it. But the point was made and has stayed with me ever since. Risk reward, something we did not see during COVID in any setting. Risk reward has got to always be our priority when we approach our patients.
Yeah, if only TikTok could figure out how to take down all the pro-Hamas videos like they do the Wegovy videos, we may be getting somewhere. But I digress to an earlier part of the show.
At least they can take something down. They've shown that they can do this. So, okay, we'll expect some more of them. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good point. I guess, Mike, when you hit on a lot of points, but you talk about risk reward when it comes to Ozempic, Wegovy, everything else.
Yeah.
And for something that is sensitive as weight and something that so many people struggle with as weight, that it does seem like a miracle drug, and it really it has changed so many people's lives. At the same time, we have no idea what the long-term effects are. There's now reports that it changes people's mood, it messes with your dopamine receptors, it changes whether you want to have a drink or not, on and on and on.
Yep. Yeah, which that could be good. I mean, that's not all bad. But yes, the point being is I've just championed risk-reward analysis when we don't know the full risk with this substance. We know if somebody's a diabetic and 100 pounds overweight, that person can be significantly improved. If it's somebody that needs to lose 15 pounds, it's a healthy young adult, it seems to me we are only exposing that person to potential harm. Plus, look, if somebody has massive weight issues and has tried everything else and this is what they need to get a handle on it, I am all for it. How long you stay at it, how much you take, we don't know. One of the dreaded side effects, you mentioned some of the side effects, but let me mention even a couple more. Gastroparesis, permanent nausea and pain in your abdomen, inability to eat. It's a very serious problem that is extremely unpleasant. And let me just raise this issue, that you're losing, in addition to fat, which is the goal, you're losing muscle. You're not losing lean fat necessarily. You're just dramatically reducing your calorie intake. And lean body mass, muscle mass, is one of the most important contributors to longevity. So we have no idea, all-cause mortality, how this is going to work out. If you're doing it and doing everything you possibly can to maintain your muscle mass and taking adequate protein, okay, in a carefully managed situation where it's really medically appropriate, might be worth the risk. But the widespread use of it, the way it's on right now, I think we're only going to see problems.
Give me the psychiatry of it, right? Because you started at the beginning of saying an old school practitioner who beat into you the dangers, right? And the dangers of all of a sudden believing that medication is the panacea. It can be very effective, but you got to be thoughtful about it. What is the psychiatry now behind, I can take this injection and with zero regard to the risks almost now, I am willing to, at 22 years old, for a lot of women, I can lose all this weight. It's the answer to everything. Is it a generational thing? Is it a psychological thing? What's happening?
I don't want to read too much into the psychology, because the reality is it does work. I mean, particularly with the young people, you've got to be extremely accurate with how you describe what these things are. They do work. The question is the risk, and also how long and how much, and what's going to happen when you stop. So to me, if somebody were hell-bent on this and was an otherwise healthy person, or was not clear that this was affecting their weight, again, we're very focused on BMI and things that are not clearly great assessments of longevity and well-being from a medical standpoint. We're going to be somebody's obsessed about losing weight. They have to understand when they come off the substance, the medication, there's a high probability that they're going to go back to the previous weight or even above. And so there's got to be some sort of wellness plan, some sort of fitness and dietary plan that somebody learns to live by and with. That is what's important. Now, people are not understanding the importance of muscle maintenance. I mean, the muscle organ system is, I think Peter Attia said this, is the organ of longevity. And if it's really about living long and well, unfortunately, people are in such denial about what medicines can do. They just dismiss it when you tell them that. And when you're young and healthy, you feel you have all the time in the world. You can't even think in terms of what's going to happen in the 7th and 8th decade of life. These are the psychologies that I worry about.
I got a good buddy of mine who lost a lot of weight without Ozempic. Looks totally different, much healthier. And I said, how do you keep the weight off? He said, I threw away all my fat clothes and I'm cheap. So that's one option. Dr. Drew?
There's many like that out there. Playing games with your own psychology, I recommend it. Figure out what works for you and do it.
All right, I love it. Dr. Drew, it's good to see you. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Good. Thank you, Leland. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Tonight is one of the holiest nights of the year for Jews. It's Passover. It's the Seder. It commemorates when Jews fled Egypt. Once again, Jews find themselves in the crosshair, as do American troops in the Middle East. Why Iran's killing of 3 Americans wasn't enough for President Biden to teach the Ayatollah a lesson, and what Iran is doing now. All right, live pictures coming up on 8 o'clock, where the protests in New York, the anti-Israel protests, continue, this one at Columbia University in New York. We want to remind you that the messages and threats sent by these protesters are pretty clear. This is a long way from we want a ceasefire, or the Gazans are suffering, or Palestinians deserve their own state. This is very different than that. The University of Michigan, long live the Intifada, is the giant poster. That's calling for a continuing violent uprising against Israel, suicide bombings, rocket attacks, stabbing attacks. At Columbia, one protester held up a sign in front of Jewish students. It read, Al-Qassam's next targets. Al-Qassam is the Martyrs Brigade that is responsible for the October 7th attacks. Then there is the more common chant that students woke up to this morning at Harvard. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River, Palestine, meaning wiping Israel off the face of the map. This isn't anything about peace. Most of those chants started in the Middle East, where nobody is happier to see terrorist sympathizers on campuses in America than the Ayatollah in Iran. Iranian-funded and armed militias fired 5 rockets at U.S. bases overnight. Here's the State Department spokesperson.
We find it especially troubling that this militia group chose to resume its attacks against U.S. personnel just hours after Prime Minister Sadani of Iraq had completed a successful visit to Washington. So it seems clear that Iran has no respect for Iraqi sovereignty. We made quite clear to Iran's proxy groups that we will defend our interests, we will defend our personnel.
Evidently, it was not made clear enough. Iranian groups, as you know, launched 160-plus attacks against U.S. troops after October 7th. They killed 3 American service members and stopped for a while. And now Iran is at it again. Why? Well, President Biden told Iran not to hit Israel, and Iran did it. And then not only didn't President Biden respond to Iran, he handcuffed Israel. So, of course, Iran will start hitting U.S. troops again. Iran sees and is almost certainly helping the protests on college campuses. They love nothing more than a weakened American. More importantly, they know these protests put President Biden in a box. He's unwilling to say anything meaningful because much of his base is so sympathetic to the pro-Hamas types. Here he is today.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
Both sides. Very fine people on both sides. I heard that once before. It didn't go over very well. Jessica Schwab is here and Kaya Drozniak are here. They're both Jewish students studying at Columbia University. Ladies, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you on Passover night. Jessica, is this a political issue that needs to be dealt with at the presidential level? Or is this something that you feel should be dealt with at the university level by the president of Columbia?
I think the very violent rhetoric we've been hearing on campus is something obviously definitely the president of Columbia should deal with and should condemn more often. And especially the experience that Kaya and I had last night was just outrageous. And the fact that there wasn't maybe a university statement put out condemning that as well because of the rise of fear among Jewish students on Columbia's campus. I think there should be more condemnation of such rhetoric and activity on our campus.
Condemnation's one thing, Kaya. I want to hear about what happened last night. But condemnation's one thing. Actually punishing people, expelling people who were involved in this is another. Tell me what happened last night and what you think should happen to them.
So last night we decided to go into the encampment because we are students here and we pay for the lawn. We pay to have access to the lawn, and we believe that we should have access to it as much as we want. And as soon as we went in there, it took about 3 minutes for them to notice that we were there. And they surrounded us. We were 3 people. They made a circle of around 200 people and linked their arms saying, we're going to push the Zionists out of the encampment. And it was terrifying the way that we were targeted.
Dear God. Yeah, really terrifying to be in a crowd like that. And they turned violent so quickly. Jessica, real quick, if you all had been African-American students surrounded by a white mob on Columbia's campus, kind of unreal to think about, and told to go back to Africa, or if you had been a transsexual, 2 transsexuals or gays who were surrounded by an angry group of frat boys, you think the response to the university would be different?
I think it would be different. I think they would be quicker to condemn it and have the students who were part of that rhetoric and activity face punishment. Again, I don't know for sure, but it does feel like there's almost like some exception made when it's anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Ladies, you're really brave. And boy, is what you're doing important, to be willing to talk about this and not accept it and to not cower in the face of intimidation and threats. It's really impressive. For as difficult as it is and for as upsetting it is to see what's happening to you, it's inspiring at the same time to see a future with young people as bright as you all. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it, especially on Passover. On that note, here's Chris.